Hi there, it's Ricky Fleming from Moshville Times here once again. I'm delighted to welcome Sean Frasier of Wise Blood Records. One of the questions that I ask my bands in the interviews that I do is how good the internet is. Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? And I would just like to say on this occasion it was a very much a good thing. In a Facebook group that I'm in, I just happened to stumble across Sean's post about favourite death metal vocalists. So after a couple of Jack Daniels, I put in my tuppence worth, and Sean introduced me this band, Mother of Graves. And that has led me to find out that Sean himself has his own record label called Wise Blood Records. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. So how are you, Sean? How have you been since lockdown? Have you been able to keep your job and everything like that?
Well, first of all, thank you, Ricky, for having me here, man. Lockdown has been a weird sort of reset for me. I was in the same job, same company for 13 years and lost my job last March. So for the first time ever, I was unemployed. I'm always somebody who has like multiple jobs. I'm always juggling a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
So I had a sort of like capitalist existential reckoning, and all of a sudden I had this wealth of time. And I was like, man, what am I going to do? Like all this time, I can't really see people. So I was basically had in the long run, I had plans of a record label.
Yeah.
And I started sort of taking it seriously now that I had the time to dedicate to it. So, in some ways it's been like a really painful and sobering period of time. But in other ways, it just opened up the possibilities of like, where do I go from here? Do I have to be a sort of corporate stooge like I have been? And maybe will be again, I got to pay the bills. But I think it's been good for me in a way to sort of force me to focus on what's good for my kind of spirit, and just kind of do stuff that brings me joy.
That's it. Doing the things that make gives you your passion. Music's clearly your passion with all the other things that you do, which we'll get into in the interview. So, how did your life in heavy extreme metal begin? So, what was it that brought this form of music to you in your life?
Yeah, well, I my first CD ever was Queen's A Night at the Opera, and so and they remain one of my favorite bands. So I was always drawn to guitar. It started with kind of classic rock, classic like proto metal type stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm 36 now, so when I was a kid, I caught the tail end of grunge. And so I had Nirvana, and Bush was a big one, the band Bush.
Yeah.
And they just got me into, harder driven guitars. And from there, it was almost kind of like an arms race towards like what's heaviest, and I was really hungry to determine to find like the next, like what's even heavier than Napalm Death, like what's heavier than Cannibal Corpse. So that journey sort of led me to be locally active. So I had a little band in high school, and we played with I'm not sure if you know the band Skinless. They're so Skinless is from my hometown.
Oh,
And
okay.
so we opened for Skinless, and they were really encouraging. And for like a 15-year-old kid, opening for Skinless, I was just like, man, this is like, I think I want to do this like in some way for the rest of my life. Like I feel really invigorated by this type of music. And from there, it was just, metal to me just always made me feel like I was part of a larger community. And it's always remained that way, that I'm really big into community building.
Yeah.
And have found a lot of other weirdos that are into horror and heavy riffs and spooky stuff, and can like that stuff without taking themselves too seriously. They could take, the talent, like they take that seriously, but maybe not everything else. So
Yeah. Just because you called me a weirdo, I'm just going to ask you a lot of difficult questions that you don't know about. So
I say weirdo lovingly, and also the self-afflicted name also.
So like we've talked about then, so you're doing like Wise Blood Records. So I was just wondering if you're mad to yourself running a record label in the world of internet downloads. I mean, how do you see yourself in surviving and flourishing as a label and signing under the severe pressure of a diminishing market?
Yeah, well, you're coming coming right after my jugular, man, with that question. Yeah, no, I definitely questioned my sanity a few times because, like you said,
suppose that helps. I suppose that helps.
Yeah. Before I answer, this is a nice imperial stout by one of my artists, Dead Ed. It's his like official beer. It's called.
Very nice.
Yeah. But basically, when I started the label, I knew that the physical aspect, like this physical sales, would not be enough for a long-term viability. You know, that I would really have to incorporate digital sales, that I would have to incorporate ticket sales and stuff like that long term. But to start, I just figure I want to get more ears on these bands, you know? So I'm going to keep it small for now, just a few albums a year, a few bands a year, so that I can sort of contribute the very best of my skill set to them and not get overwhelmed. You know, when you were talking about like, are you mad? Like there was definitely a question where I was like, man, I don't know if this is the right move. I just lost my job, you know? So there was also the financial aspect of it where I was like, well, how long can I keep this going? You know, but I part of being one of the good things about being anxious, I guess, is that I'm really hyper vigilant. So I'm well organized, and I saved up enough money that I had the first couple of years funded for the label. I'm also staying away from vinyl for the first couple of years. Which I mean, you know, the startup costs for vinyl are wild. So, and I love vinyl. Like I love it. It kills me to not have the Mother of Graves artwork on a big, you know, on a big piece right behind me that I can spin on my turntable. But
it can still happen.
Yeah. So I mean, we hope one day we'll be able to shift into vinyl. But I figure the first couple of years, just got to learn the ropes, you know, make sure that I'm doing right by these bands that are trusting me, and just spread the gospel, you know. Mother Graves and Vexing Hex deserve that from me. So I'm just keeping the stakes low, you know, and not trying to lose my mind in the stress. Yeah.
That's excellent. Thanks very much for that. So you just had your first signing session on Saturday there at the Loon. So how did that go?
Oh man, that was awesome. It was also the first time I'd seen people in like a month.
I know.
So, you know, so I was probably being like a jittery psychopath behind the table, but I had my fiance with me. She was helping me sell stuff, and was super personable. And the whole Mother of Graves band, they showed up. And this city, man, the community really rallies around the talent here. They really show up. And, you know, I was coming from the East Coast, from New York City and Brooklyn and Philadelphia. I've lived in all those places. And there's so much going on all the time that you can't really count on people to be there. You know what I mean? There's almost like too many options. And this size city is just great for networking and community building, because I mean, all of the people that showed up, I see them regularly at shows. They really support the artists. And I had a ton of people I've never met before that just rolled in, that were, you know, ready to have some beer, and were like, all right, what's this sound like? I was like, oyster cult. And they're like, all right, here's money. So that was awesome, you know. It went really well.
You're definitely lucky, because over here in Scotland, we're in lockdown number 3. So the only way I can go out is if I'm going food shopping. That's it, you know. So I was surprised to see that you guys can have a signing session, but I was ultimately jealous that I couldn't be there and do these type of things, you know. So I just imagined you all standing there in your radioactive suits and things like that, you know.
Yeah, hazmat suit. You know, everybody was masked. Everybody was really respectful of that, but you're still flirting with potential, you know, infections.
Yeah.
That's the longest I've been inside anywhere. I mean, probably since March. You know, that like was a public setting. Like, so yeah, it was definitely. I'm very cautious when I do things like that. The optics of it are important to me. I don't want anybody to be in danger, you know. But I was also deeply grateful for the people that did show up, and I understand the ones that weren't comfortable too. You know, I shipped all their stuff last night, so
Yeah.
they'll get their CD soon enough.
So on the day then, were you kind of were you shitting a brick, or did everything go to plan? And I mean, it certainly looks as if it went well because I saw your Facebook post with all the CDs getting posted out and everything. So certainly looks as if it went well.
Oh man, what just like what a resounding voice of support. You know, they gave Mother Graves. Like I
Yeah.
have one CD left. I should have had it in grabbing distance, but yeah, I have one left. Um, so the rest of them are getting shipped out tomorrow.
Excellent.
Um, and you know, we just ordered a second run of CDs for Mother Graves. Uh, Vexing Hex is doing really well. I'm really excited to share them because they're also like they're a band that's like a little tougher to pitch because their genres all over the place. So I can't wait for people to kind of see them live and for me to be selling stuff in person more
Yeah.
because people were very interested to hear like, oh, it's like Pet Sounds. It's like the Beach Boys if they were recorded in like a crypt, and people are like, that I need to hear that now. So things, you know, the face-to-face interaction with selling is a real gift. So I'm excited to go to like festivals and do that more.
Can't wait. Cannot wait.
Eventually, right? Eventually, when it's
Yeah.
permissible.
So you talked about it a wee bit about Indianapolis as a whole. So what's it like for like the music shops and the venues for gigs and recording studios? Is it quite strong in Indianapolis? By the way, that's a hell of a name to say. Can I just say Indiana or something?
Yeah. Indie. You can just say indie. Yeah. Yeah, man. Like coming, you know, I mentioned I was coming from like big cities on the East Coast. So when I was coming here, I came here for my fiance's schooling. She's in med school, and it was a little reluctant. Like I'll just be transparent. You know, I wasn't that psyched to come to the Midwest and set roots here. But I've been so impressed, you know, like in Manhattan, you have 12 of everything. And here, maybe you have two, you know, but it's still enough. You
Yeah.
know, there's still great venues. There's a really great beer culture, a lot of great breweries. I have two record shops in walking distance. And one of them, they're going to carry our stuff. So, you know, maybe both eventually, but my favorite one's going to carry our titles, and I'm really thankful for that. It's indie CD and vinyl. And my favorite venue in the whole city is also walking distance. So, you know, I can pop my headphones on and listen to, you know, a death metal EP. Actually, during the length of Mother Graves, I could walk. So, like by the end of that EP, I could be at their doorstep. You know. So I'm just so thankful for the scene here. There's like a Melody Inn is a punk rock venue. Black Circle is the place where I got engaged and booked our launch concert.
Yeah.
So man, it's a great city for underground music for sure.
It must be great not having to take the car and going to the gig. It means that you can have a couple of beers.
Yeah. You know, I was actually concerned about that because you know I don't own a car. You know, I coming from New York, I rode the subway for a decade. You know, so when I came here, I was like, I would really like it to be walkable, and it is. There's like trails everywhere. So yeah, I can go everywhere. I can slam back a few of these. I mean, this is like 8.2 or something. So 8.4.
God,
Yeah.
this is going to be a long interview then. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's finish this. That's my goal.
Yeah. So you're also a regular contributor for Decibel Magazine. So how did you start writing for them? And was it this experience, was it a contributing factor that made you think about running a record label?
Oh man, that's a great question. Yeah, it's the only thing that ever worked out like perfectly as planned. It's the only thing. I was going through a period of depression and really looking for some sort of additional purpose.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm really passionate about heavy music. Why don't I just make a personal blog, write about music, and I'll do it every day for 30 days. And then I'll reach out to some of my favorite magazines and just take a stab at it. So I did. I wrote it every day for 30 days. The blog is probably still up. It's called Mr. Growl, um, and which has been like my moniker, like my pseudonym a couple times. Um, so I wrote Mr. Growl for 30 days, sent my favorite like 3 or 4 pieces to Decibel, and the managing editor at the time, and Andrew Bonzelli, was just like, all right, yeah, we'll try it. We'll try it out. And he remains like one of my best friends. He and the editor in chief, Albert, who's like the boss man at Decibel. I mean, they are just like some of the most talented, hilarious, and skilled people. So I'm like, I feel a loyalty to them. And
Yeah.
now it's been like 7 years, that I've written there, and I've been in 90 issues. I've done, I think, I just finished my 17th cover story for
Wow.
them. So, I mean, without them, trusting in me and bringing me on board, I never would have met the rest of the writers. And we like meet up at festivals, and we'll divide up who we're gonna write about and just catch up. It's like a little family.
Yeah.
Um, I never would have interviewed people like Neurosis and Tom Warrior, and oh man, there's like such a list of people that I was like, I grew up listening to them as a teenager, and here I am, 15 years later, talking to them about their careers. Like it's been awesome. Um, and I think you did ask also, how does it relate to the label?
It's a good beer, isn't
Can
it?
you
Good
tell it's my first interview, Ricky?
beer.
You're like, get to the point. Um, no, but it does, because it helps me really cultivate relationships. So I met all the publicists, I met the record label representatives, I've talked to the bands about their concerns. So I've really been able to see the sort of web that connects all these different jobs and what would make all of their jobs easier. And I think that's, at the end of the day, the record label. I'm just trying to amplify the signal for certain bands and get more ears on them. But also, if I can cultivate those relationships, writers want to hear good music.
Yeah.
They're eager to hear good music. Publicists, they want new clients, and if I bring them a couple new bands and some text ready to go, like that makes their job easier. And will make me somebody that they want to work with, and that's kind of the goal. And like Decibel really helped me sharpen all of those skills.
That's the thing. I mean, you're right for Decibel. Your name's out there, so the bands will already know who you are. You know that you're a sound guy, so they'll want to work with you. Whereas if you didn't do anything like that, there's so many small record labels out there that are doing things wrong, that are ripping bands off and stuff like that. Whereas you doing what you're doing, the bands know that you're trustworthy already. So yeah, it all helps, as you say. I mean, it's also a dream for me. I mean, one of my claim to fame is I've interviewed Dan Seagrave. I mean, I spoke to him on the phone for an hour and 20 minutes. It cost me 120 quid because I'd done it wrong on WhatsApp. But,
All right.
I've got his phone number, but I never thought for one day I would ever be able to do that. And it's the same with yourself. 17 cover stories of a world-renowned magazine. You wouldn't have dreamt that when you were like 15 or something like that,
Yeah. I mean, isn't Dan an awesome guy? Also, Dan Seagrave.
Yeah, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I could have talked to him for hours and hours, and he was more than willing to talk. Very welcoming. I hope I get to talk to him again, because it's only since last August that I've done online interviews, because it was fear. of doing this. You know, I just didn't feel that I was good enough in doing them. Now nothing's going to stop me. I'm now doing international bands from Sweden, Mallorca, and now US and stuff like that. Nothing's going to stop me now, and nothing's going to stop you either. So we're doing it because we love the music and the bands.
I'm so glad that you brought up just tackling stuff you're afraid of doing. Because when I talk to a band before I represent them, I do say, I was like, listen, if you can do all this on your own, you should. You know, like, because if you can be self-reliant, it's going to save you a lot of money. You know, just to be able to do stuff on your own, and if you push yourself, you'll learn these skills. So, you know, Vexing Hex, they did their own artwork, they did their own layout for the CD and the cassette, and it looks fucking awesome. It looks really good. And now I can pitch him, you know, as somebody who does design work, and I can bring him work, and it's all because he was willing to learn that, and got to a point where it was so good that I was like, man, we don't need anybody else. Like, you got it. So I'm really glad that you pushed yourself to do it, and kind of like, because that voice can be kind of loud, the one that's like, I don't know if you could do this, that doubts you. So I'm glad you pushed through that, or else we wouldn't be chatting right now. So
exactly. And I just ask myself, what's the worst that can happen? I mess up a question or whatever like that. Is, you know, we start the interview again. So what? You know, it's the world's not going to end. But it's just when you're also talking about that web. How did you manage to get Dan Swain for Mother of Graves? Because when I spoke to Chris and Ben the other night there, they were just like fanboys, you know, when they said yes, you know. It was like you already had a list, and then you said, oh, here's another list. There's Dan Swain on it. Right. Dan.
Yeah. You know, I don't want to mention the names of the people we didn't pick, but they were all awesome. Yeah, and I was really excited to work with them. But then it was just this moment where I was like, why I'm being insane. Like, why don't we just go try for the person who actually mastered, you know, and engineered Catatonia albums and Opeth albums that, I mean, you heard Mother of Graves. They've definitely heard those albums.
Yes.
You know, so the man who is part of that legacy already, like, why don't we acknowledge that history and make that, like, kind of sort of complete the circle? The sort of like Ouroboran, you know, life energy of melodic death doom. And I mean, if they could think of a word shorter than yes, they would have said it. You know, they were just so psyched to work. And Dan was really easy to work with and get a hold of. I mean, I just straight up emailed him like, hey, this is our timeline. Do you want to hear, you know, the unmastered tracks? Just hear, you know, if it's worth your time and energy. And he was all in, you know. He loved the songs, but also he had all really kind words to say about Brandon and his vocals. And I'm pretty sure Brandon is still grinning, you know, to this day, you know, months later. So
I touched base over the festive period, and I've just emailed Dan about doing an interview again. I've interviewed him before, and that boy can talk. So that's exactly what I want. But it's Dan Swain we're talking about here, you know. You can't mess that up. It's about overcoming the fear again, but hey ho.
Yeah, I've never talked to him in person. It's just been emails, you know. So like, I've done a couple email interviews with him. And they were never like, I'm sure you've had like the one sentence answers.
Yes,
where someone
that annoyed me.
Yeah, they just like shit out an answer and it's unusable. That's not Dan. You know, Dan was always really personable and thorough with his answers, and really took the time to make it be like, you know, I'm going to dedicate my time to your questions. So he's awesome. I would love to work with him again. So
yeah, definitely, and that's what's also going to attract other bands to you. The fact that you can open doors like that. So it's all good. It's all good. So how many people do you have helping you run the label? Has it grown considerably since you started?
It's just me, man. You know, it's me and my pet rat.
I mean, the amount of Facebook likes, for example, have been going up quite considerably, you know.
Yeah.
For the label, I've seen the Facebook likes go up quite a lot.
Yeah, it's just me doing it. My fiance helped me pack the shipment stuff. You know, I cooked her dinner and she did that. My brother is probably going to kind of co-finance a couple releases. So I have his help, and he has a long history in booking shows and promoting music and stuff in upstate New York.
Yeah.
So it's great to have my brother kind of working with me, but they're all on, just when I plead for help, they are happy to help. Apart from that, I want to give a shout out to Lindley King. She's a photographer and artist, who's been working with me, helping me develop some layout stuff, and she did the photography for Mother of Graves for this album. So there's a lot of people that are willing to help. The budget is not there to pay them for the help. So just like I encourage the bands, I'm learning everything on my own. So I'm learning the shipping software, and what the appropriate sized envelopes are, like boring shit, like tedious stuff. Like I don't want anybody else to have to learn that. So this is like the unglamorous role of running a record label. I wish it was just me out there picking up groupies and stuff. That'd be awesome. Just put out killer albums, like surrounded by women. But it's really just me and my fiance helping me pack up boxes.
I was going to say, your fiance isn't in the room with you just now, is she?
No, but she would be excited for that too. Because she would like to see me, be like a success or whatever. She'd be like, yeah, it would be like your music video picture is like me with my fur coat on, and like surrounded by models, and then me treating them very nicely and tipping them. That would be the scene.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. So because you've got a couple of releases under your belt now, and the name of Wise Blood is getting out there, what would you recommend bands do in order to attract your attention and get themselves signed to your label?
Yeah. Oh man, I'm so glad you asked that. Because there's an element of it that's luck in some way, right? Because if their music doesn't vibe with me, I'm not going to spend my time and resources. And in some ways, there's just not much you can do about that. It's just my personal taste.
Yeah.
I'm not somebody who really likes like super technical music. There are certain genres that I don't really dabble in. But the stuff you can control is you have to have a really solid and energetic live performance. You have to work on banter with the crowd. You have to sort of act with integrity, and network. Like everybody has to understand that like being in a band is not just playing an instrument now. You have to make an attempt at social media. I would recommend a post today. Matt Bacon, who does Bacon's Bits. He has some really great guides to what bands can do to sort of expand their reach. But that's really important, to put the time in, to put the energy in to connecting with fans, because it's all about engagement. It's really about making yourself feel like a human being and not just a product. And I think the bands that do that are really successful. And Mother of Graves, like these guys are just really well thought of in the scene. Like their reputations preceded them, and I didn't even know. I knew Brandon, and I'd seen the drummer Don play in a bunch of bands. I didn't really know the other guys, but I'll tell you what spoke loudly is that as soon as they were in another band, there were 50, 60 people lining up to buy their albums, saying that they miss seeing them play, checking in on how their other passions were doing. Like they all know each other because these guys put the legwork into cultivating those relationships. So I think that's what you got to do. You got to talk to the fans after. You have to relate on a personal level, like remember names and faces. And also, this is really important. Sorry, it's a long answer.
That's all right.
But what's really important is that self-promotion does not mean only promoting yourself. It also means promoting other bands that you play with, other venues, because again, it's all connected. Yes. So, bring people with you on the ride. It's a lot easier when there's other bands that'll vouch for you. All of a sudden, like a tour spot opens up. Like, who are you gonna think of? That band that's awesome and like easy to work with. Like
Yeah.
they're really talented and professional and cool. Let's bring them on the road. Or somebody falls through like a headliner spot. Like, who's a venue owner gonna think of? Guys that have been there before that bring people in that are pleasant to work with. So
Yeah.
I deeply believe in that aspect of it.
So your philosophy then is if they do all of that, they interact with the fans and everything else, um, they sell other bands and everything. You're not really genre specific. You're willing to sign any of your local artists, any genre to your label to promote Indianapolis.
Well, not every genre. I'm definitely a metal and punk
Ah,
label. Uh, but
I didn't see you doing a dance music. I didn't see that.
yeah, not yet. Although I'm putting out the Dead Ed record is actually like synthwave. It's like a dark wave electronic record.
Must have
So
been
that'll
like
be
that
something.
sometimes.
Yeah, that'll be different for me.
Yeah.
But also he has metal ties though, because it's the ex drummer of Skeleton Witch.
Okay.
So it's his like horror synth project, and it's really cool. So, but yeah, there's certain genres that I'm probably not going to touch. But I'll even do like dark folk. I'll do post punk. I'll do goth music. It's a pretty wide net, and it just comes down to what I'm passionate about, what I personally connect to.
Yeah.
So, I love labels like Dark Descent and Unspeakable Acts and stuff like that like have their niche,
Yeah.
but that's not for me. Mine's just gonna go wherever my winds take me, pretty much.
So when a band is trying to get signed to your label, then what do you expect to receive from them? You might just get, here, listen to our music. We think we're brilliant, or do you prefer a very detailed EPK and all the rest of it? What do you expect from a band?
It really just comes down to the music they send me. I would like to see who they have in mind for mixing and mastering.
Yeah.
I'd like to kind of see where their thought process is there, and if they have artwork, that's awesome. But I'm willing to work with bands throughout that, depending on how wide of a release we're gonna do. Like for Mother of Graves, I've chipped in money. Like I split the cost for artwork, and I split the cost for mastering with them. That may not be the deal for every band.
Yeah.
Everything's different. They were the first band that trusted me, so I really wanted to repay that trust and make sure I took care of their album.
Yeah.
With other ones, I might ask that they bring me a mastered product. It will depend on that. But really, it just comes down to the music. I can do all the research myself. I got my music journalism tools, so I'll usually research them a little bit. But I'm also focused on local and regional bands,
Yeah.
mainly. So I really want to support the Indianapolis bands, but that'll branch out into like Ohio, Kentucky, Illinois. Vexing Hex is from Illinois, which is neighboring us. And so just send me music that you can stand behind. And sometimes even if I love it, the timing's not right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it crushes me because I wish I could put out 20 albums a year. But right now, it's realistically, I'm probably doing like 3 to 5.
Yeah.
So, it's a tough thing because I fall in love with albums really quickly. And I want to do more for the band. But, my hands are tied with the financial reality
Yeah.
of the pandemic and all that. So.
Unfortunately, it always comes down to that, doesn't it? The dollar sign. That's brilliant, Sean. Thank you very much for that. So, what level of pressure are you under every day in order to meet deadlines? And what setbacks can you face running a record label?
Well, the biggest setbacks are usually things that are outside of my control. Like shipping. Shipping is the biggest headache. I still don't have a distributor in Europe. So I get messages from fans in Europe that are desperate. Yeah, like yourself. They're really eager to support the band. And while it's like $23, which I think is like, is that like 20 euro or something? I that's just too much. It's not fair to the it's not fair to the consumer, to the customer. So while I'm working on that, I field a lot of questions on that. But the shipping stuff, like I had tapes sent to me late, but like I mentioned earlier in the interview, my like hyper vigilance from my anxiety, like I had already built in, 2 weeks, so it didn't affect our release in any way. So I think that what I would recommend to other label people is just, build in a buffer, a cushion for time and for money.
Yeah.
Because there's always going to be things that could happen. Maybe they won't. Maybe it'll be better than expected. My CDs, I usually get them in less than 2 weeks when I order them, and then they're ready to go. But I was warned. I talked to a lot of other people running labels about like what's the hardest thing, like what didn't you anticipate, and all of them just said shipping. Like it's tedious. And it's not like you can hand deliver it, everywhere and ensure that it reaches its destination safely. So that's going to be tough. Like I'm already worrying that, I sent out 85 packages last night, like hopefully they reach their homes and people are playing them and they're happy by the end of the week. So I'm just hoping that, that stuff I can't control goes well. But at the end of the day, the deadlines I set, and I set them carefully. And like you mentioned it earlier in the interview, I think like the stakes are pretty low. If somebody doesn't get their CD, I'll send them another one. I'll make it right. Because I really value the people that are putting their money here, and if I have to eat the cost of it, that's okay. Like they're showing up to support, and I bet they will again once I make it right.
Yeah.
So it's always like I always keep it big picture. I'm not going to argue about $7, for a CD, because this is someone who like cared about that band enough, and I bet they'll come back. So I don't worry too much. I just take care of people, and they'll take care of me back, is what I think.
Oh, you're a lovely soul, aren't you?
I'm a total hippie, man. I really, and like people don't, they don't assume that because of the the heavy metal like image, is like skulls and like spitting blood. But like what I think I have one here. But my stickers that say like our riffs are mean, but we're not. Like, that's a little, people have thought it's hokey, but I like firmly believe in it, and like leading by example and being inclusive and welcoming. So yeah, I'm definitely like a free love hippie, man.
Oh,
Yeah.
So although you started Wise Blood Records in 2020, did you have plans on having your record label sooner, or was it a case of getting things in order before you were able to release your music?
I definitely thought I was going to be doing it later instead of sooner. But since I lost my job, it kind of like gave me a path towards starting it.
Yeah.
And I touched on it a little bit, but like it really is just when was I going to have a better opportunity in time to develop something that I want to do long term. And so this is not ideal. I would have preferred to be working and getting paid for the 9 months. But it gave me the time to sort of develop this. I registered the company as an LLC, so it's all super official and all that. And I really got to do my research, get the right bands to start, and build it right, and so far I'm just thrilled that people it seems to be resonating with people. The kind of small business mentality. Sometimes I say like us, like we at Wise Blood Records, and even though it's just me, because at the end of the day, it is sort of an umbrella across the bands I represent, the local scene, and all that. So I'm hoping that by this point next year, everybody that likes heavy music in Indianapolis will know who I am, and that the neighboring states will start to learn that, because I want to go travel to festivals and shows there.
Well, you're certainly off to a great start with a couple of bands that you've got under your roster already. So, uh, so when a band signs to Wise Blood Records, then, so can you go through the process of like what happens next? Like, how do you go about getting the distribution, the artists, the producers to work for the bands, etc.? So, how does it all fit? So, let's say Mother of Graves, I want to sign that band. You get them to sign the contract. What happens next?
Yeah, that one was interesting because it wasn't even fully mixed yet. Like I had their demos, and then we went through the whole thing together. So every record's going to be different. But for them, I took a listen and I said, first of all, this is awesome. I really want to be involved. I would like you to be sort of like my flagship band, like my first band on the label. And because of that, I'll help cover artwork, I'll help cover mastering, I'll pay for all the production of the tapes and CDs. And I'll just be transparent, like with, they get their cut, which is like they get out of every 100 I print, they get 20, just to mark up and sell on their own, whatever they want. And they get a cut of every other sale. So it's pretty standard, like 20 to 25% like of the physical merch. And then the digital stuff is more like 50%. But
50%,
all the other bands,
50% of nothing is nothing with the streaming and the digital side of things, isn't it? It's not like what it used to be in the old days where you had to buy a CD for $10, $15 or £10, £15 and the band would get a good couple of pounds of that. It's not that anymore,
No, it's definitely a more shallow well, right now. The digital sales that we get from Bandcamp, stuff like that is what I split. And we set a price. We're not doing the name your own price yet, but we do say people can pay more if they want, and people are. People are adding like $5 extra bucks on there because they want to support the band, and the label. For the other bands that are coming in, it'll really depend on budgets, where they are in the process. So if it's already mastered, obviously that it makes my decision easier, because that's already an expense, that's gone. So maybe for something like that, if I don't have to pay for mastering, I'll put a little more into their artwork, or I'll say, okay, I'll throw in for t-shirts too. I really want to make it a mutually beneficial relationship. And I should also say that I always encourage them to have their own Bandcamp page, and that they would get the full, they 100% what they sell to their own Bandcamp page. Like, that's them, they earned that. And it's only if it comes through my label that I get a cut. So I'm not a dude who like chases nickels and dimes. I just want us all to be happy. No one's getting rich playing death metal. You know what I mean? I shouldn't say nobody. Very few people are getting rich playing death metal. So we're just trying to spread music that we're really proud of. Yeah.
I think a band like Mother of Graves, I think all they just want to do is go on stage and play their music. I mean, if they sell CDs and merch and bring money into the band, then it'll just help them grow and things. But I think the guys are just doing it for the music because they know that they're not going to be millionaires. They know they're not going to reach the label of Cannibal Corpse, for example. So they're just doing it for the passion.
Yeah, and I mean, I love that. They definitely miss playing live. Brandon. I think I saw him play with his band Summon the Destroyer. He's a vocalist in that band too. And it was an outdoor show, and it was like, 40 people sitting on a lawn, watching. And it's just not, it's not really how death metal should really be consumed in a live setting. So I think they're really looking forward to being in a packed club with just a ton of fog. Like, I'm telling you, like, there's no such thing as too much fog for me. Like, I don't want to see anybody. I look really good when you can't see me in the fog. So like, I want that type.
Do you know, I had an interview with a photographer last week, and he says this one of his pet hates is red light and fog. The smoke machines, you know, you just
Yeah.
you have to change to black and white, for example, you know, so it makes it difficult for him, but you don't care.
I mean, honestly, you know, the photographers we hire, they'll go crawl up on stage and get right in their face and get some good pictures. I understand it makes it hard, and red light just like kills the detail that
Yeah.
you can get. So I understand, but like seriously, more fog. I'm sorry. Like if he can get shots after the show, or like we'll blow a fan at the stage and clear it for a minute. You know. But what about you? Where's your stance on how much fog you want in a show?
Depends on the band. If they've got that mysterious aspect to them, then yeah. But yeah, I'm just dying for gigs. I think we're going to be completely blown and spoiled for choice when all this is over. We're going to have Glasgow. In Glasgow, for example, there's like 4 or 5 venues, brilliant venues, but they're all in a stone throw of each other. And I think bands are going to play there all the time, and they're going to be playing there every night. And we're going to be spoiled for choice. But I just hope it doesn't affect the numbers through the doors, you know. But oh yeah, just get me I'll be at the bar. Don't worry about it. I'll be at the bar. So what are your ambitions then for your label, Wise Blood Records? I mean, imagine you must receive numerous demos from bands wishing to be signed to your label due to your now ever-growing reputation.
Yeah, I get a demo pretty much every day. And it's really hard to kind of repetitively say, I'm really focused on local and regional bands. You know, that's the easiest way, and the bands understand. And I'm sure the band thinks like, "Fuck, I like wish I had somebody like that here." You know, so I'm hoping that people help in those locations and just help organize and support bands too.
What would you have done if Mother of Graves were from Dallas?
I probably wouldn't have released it. I probably also wouldn't have known about it. Because I was really in tune with, you know, I wanted the very first band to be here. And I haven't put them out yet, but 2 of the next 3 are also from here. And Vexing Hex was in a neighboring state, and that's the only one I didn't go after. That's the only demo that I've accepted. Was Vexing Hex. So you know, I probably wouldn't have put Mother of Graves out. Somebody else with very good taste would have put it out, you know, and I would have bought the album just as a fan. But yeah, my ambitions, I think, are I would love to see this last 20 years or more. And I don't know if it'll ever be a career, probably not. But that being said, I would love for my doctor girlfriend to, you know, bankroll my little strange label, so I can be like a stay-at-home husband releasing death metal for 20 years. That would be a thrill. I also have not. I've also considered maybe spinning this into a job at a bigger label, but keeping this going. You know, so I could work at a larger label, have relationships that I build there, and apply those to my own label where I still only put out 3 to 5 a year, and really personalize it. So that's my hope, is to just be involved in the business aspect, do it for the right reasons, work with integrity, and just introduce music that I love to more people. Because like, who doesn't like love going to a bar and playing the shit on a jukebox? You know, that's like kind of how it feels to me. Is like, I have my like personal jukebox, except it's a lot more money than putting a quarter in. But it's just fun to curate a sort of playlist, you know, and support these bands that already work really hard.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I mean, you're clearly an ambitious person, and I certainly wish you all the best, and I hope you get your goals. I hope you meet your goals and achieve your goals. and I hope you find more bands like Mother of Graves, because it's one hell of a start. I mean, it's rare that I get excited about a band as much as this. They've got great potential there, and I'm already delighted to hear that they're looking at doing like a full length next. Maybe I'll get to see them in tour one day. Who knows? Who knows? But yeah, I wish you the best of luck, man. But just as a last wee question then, a wee bit of fun then. So you've been invited to a party and you're a DJ and you're allowed to bring 5 CDs to the party then. So who would you bring?
All right, so if it's a party, I don't want to bum everybody out. Like really depressive stuff. So I'm gonna say I want Monster Magnet, Dopes to Infinity.
Okay.
I want Church of Misery, Houses of the Unholy.
Yeah.
I want maybe something like Silver, Baltimore, Kingdom Come.
Yeah.
I love that one. Man, how about something by the Stooges? I love the Stooges. Maybe like Funhouse or something like that. And let's see. I guess let's get gross with it. We do like Pungent Stench, then Caught
Are
Buttering.
you a Pungent Stench fan?
Back in the day, yes, I loved that album. Loved that album.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the best album titles of all time is "For God Your Soul, For Me Your Flesh." I mean,
oh my God.
what an album title!
I turned half of my shirts into sleeveless shirts, but I don't have any muscles, so it's like a strange thing to do. But I have that one. I should have worn that today because I love Pungent Stench, man. That was like my first death metal love outside of Skinless. So
yeah, no, cool. Listen, Sean, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Obviously, wish you and your bands that you have in your roster all the best. It's just been great talking to you, and I hope it won't be the last time. I hope to catch up with you soon, and maybe even have a wee beer together.
Oh man, I hope so. Yeah, get Mother of Graves to go to Badger Fest.
Yeah, I mean, they're the kind of level that they would play. They would get on the bill, you know. It's just as and when it can happen. He does it every October. So
yeah.
I'm sure John will get them on no problem if visas permitting and all that nonsense, the paperwork and all that. But yeah, I'm sure that will happen. But listen, Sean, thank you very much for your time, and I wish you all the best, mate.
Thanks, man. Ricky, you rule, and really appreciate all you do.
Stop it.
Yeah.